Devils Wednesday. This is the State of the Fan Address, episode 127. I'm your host, Sam Wu, here with pucksandpitchforks.com editor-in-chief Nick Villano, streaming live on Facebook Live, Twitter Live, YouTube Live, and Twitch on the Primetime Radio Network. Hello, everybody. It's a week before training camp. Lots of stuff going on. Also, the Devils are getting ready for the training camp. Nick, before we start, I got to plug, and I got to plug well. This podcast, Let's Go Devils podcast, will be at the Stagehouse Tavern in Mountainside on September 24th between 8 p.m. to midnight as Arlette celebrates her 50th birthday party. She will be performing with her girls. The Girls, that's her band. Awesome band. Also joining NJ Devil, the mascot. Also the Woo Crew, no relations to me. I had nothing to do with that. I don't do the Devils marketing. I'm just a Devils fan. And we'll be there, or at least I'll be there, with organist Pete, doing a live podcast again at the Stagehouse Tavern, Mountainside, New Jersey. I think it's off Route 22. It's going to be amazing, amazing night. Also, I want to thank all the kind words after those that read the article on pucksandpitchforks.com, my journey to be the next Devils PA announcer. I've gotten a lot of well-wishers. I've gotten a lot of applicants wishing me well. I wish them well. I just hope it goes to a true diehard New Jersey Devils fan with enthusiasm, passion, creativity, and professionalism is what the Devils want. And some have asked me, have you heard from the Devils yet? No, I haven't heard. Have you heard? I'm just like a Devils fan, just like you, that entered and my resume and everything. Nobody knows anything. But I want to thank you all. And the longer this goes, just like Charlie Bucket, that last golden ticket, the dream lives on. Nick, sorry about the long-winded intro, but I had to get it off my chest. Arlette's 50th birthday party, and thanking the readers of pucksandpitchforks.com because a lot of them said nice, kind words, including the applicants as well. It's nice to see that there's good, friendly competition, like what's about to happen in training camp a week from now.
You missed the big part of the podcast, Sam. You're too busy plugging your own stuff. We got a huge announcement tonight. Something big. A big surprise.
I was going to let you do that. I was going to let you do that. I was setting you up.
Transition to training camp. How am I supposed to... I got to stop you in your tracks. And we've been doing this a long time. You got to have more chemistry than that. No, we have a huge announcement tonight. I'm excited. No, Steve, we are not bringing back Jacques back. We're not bringing Jacques Lemaire back. I don't think that I would announce that either. Devil's Twitter likes to announce its own stuff. So, yeah. We have a huge announcement tonight. It's going to come somewhere towards the end of the podcast. I'm very excited about it. Sam, are you excited about it?
I'm so excited about it that I've been worried all day that I would slip out and say something about it. So I'm going to mum's the word.
I got to worry about you on that Woo report.
Yeah. Before I start slipping, hey, got a big announcement. Stay tuned at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on the State of the Fan address. Not going to blow it. Not going to blow it.
Denny, you get no hints. You have to wait. Wait for hints. Denny Brutel wants a hint. The hint is that there's going to be an announcement at the end of the podcast. The hint is it's at the end of the podcast. We're going to make a big announcement. I'm very excited about it. It's going to progress this podcast. It's going to progress Pucks and Pitchforks. It's gonna take us to another level, and I'm excited about that. I'm excited about taking things to other levels. So it's going to be a lot of fun. But anyway, it's been an interesting day. Dougie Hamilton took the ice for the first time in a Devils sweater. Sam, how'd that make you feel?
It felt, you know that feeling when you sink your teeth in to a Taylor ham, egg, and cheese sandwich, and you take that bite out.
I don't know what that is.
Okay, but it felt good, and it looked good, and it's just a wonderful time of year around this time when the weather starts to go from hot to that autumn weather.
I call it crispy.
Yeah. It just feels right and feels good. It feels right and it feels good. That's all I could say.
By the way, Sam, I don't get that weather, unfortunately.
Oh yeah.
I will get that weather when I go up. We still gotta compare schedules. We gotta see when we're gonna do our special trip to. We're going to New Jersey and Utica and hopefully a Riveters game. We gotta see if we can line up a weekend where we can get them all in. Because that'll be a lot of fun too. That's something that I'm definitely doing that this year. That's something I wanted to do last year. Pandemic kind of threw that for a loop, obviously. Yeah. Actually, we wanted to do it 2 years ago when Binghamton was really good. I remember that. Like when Binghamton was like rolling towards the playoffs. Like, let's go to Binghamton game. Let's do live podcasts from there. We had Rob Lapolis who was going to come and do the live podcast a little bit with us before he had to go and do the play-by-play. We had it all set up, and then it kind of all went to the wayside. Which it happens. It is what it is. But this year, let's make it happen, Sam. Let's make sure that we're. I haven't had that live experience that you've had. You've had a couple of these live podcasts. They've looked like a lot of fun. I've done them.
We almost did over here. We almost did at Amalie Arena before they shut down the NHL. People may have forgotten that I was en route to Florida for the Panthers, and then on a Saturday night, and then a Sunday afternoon against the Lightning, and NHL pauses the season, but we actually got permission from the Lightning before they won the 2 Stanley Cups to actually broadcast live the Let's Go Devils podcast in enemy territory. I shouldn't say enemy because they're actually friends of the podcast because they allowed this to happen in front of the fans with Amalie Arena in the backdrop. And I hope that happens again. I'm going to try for November, but, life and schedules may get in the way. Of course, we want to be safe about it, but it's that time of year that, hey, everybody's on a clean slate. PK Subban, you're on a clean slate. Damon Severson, I'll forget about butt puck last season when the puck went in the net off your butt. It's a new attitude. It's a new
I mean, to be
season.
fair, that happened to Andy Green like 7 times.
Yeah,
like Andy
I
Green
know.
scored more own goals than he scored actual goals. So
Yeah,
it is what it is.
but go ahead.
Oh no, now that threw me off. So you said what you were gonna say.
Oh, you know what? But with Andy Green, it's like, hey, it's Andy. But with Damon Severson, the expectations are much higher, especially out of his rookie season. Getting the compliments from Scotty Bowman, the legendary NHL coach. I'm seeing a lot of chatter on the Facebook Live right now. I'm going to save it for when I get Dan Rice on to talk a little puck, a little Devils hockey. Also, I'll throw this in here.
And he's gonna talk about this very strange. I don't know what the word is because I don't know enough about it, which is why we're having Dan Rice on. But you've seen the complete rebrand of the NWHL, right? It's no longer the NWHL; it's the PWF?
No, it's PHF.
HF.
Premier Hockey Federation, I believe.
Which is
Premier.
Yeah. Well, so he's gonna talk me through that because I'm very, I've seen one side, I've seen the other side. I'm very thrown off, and I feel like a lot of people, like even like some of the main reporters in women's hockey, or in this league. I don't know. It's very strange, but I want him to explain it to us so he can kind of give us. He's the premier reporter in women's hockey. He's writing for the Ice Garden right now, which is the premier women's hockey blog. So it makes a lot of sense. So I'm excited to talk to him about that. But obviously, we're going to talk about Devils content. I kind of want to get his reaction to what he thought when we signed Dougie. I want to get his reaction to, Jack Hughes has been an interesting topic the past couple of days. The Olympic rosters have been predicted. Not a lot of Jack Hughes, Sam. Not seeing a lot of Jack Hughes in Team America. Picking players like Brock Nelson over him. Picking players like Brian Rust over him. So I want to talk to him about that. I really can't see them not bringing Jack Hughes if he takes the step.
I'm actually okay with that. I'm actually okay with that. I said on the Woo Report about the Olympics. I think right now in the Devils team development, I hate interruptions, just like what's happened the last 2 seasons. You got the NHL pause, sudden pause, and then the 56-game season that was interrupted by a COVID outbreak. I want to see this team gel, spending time practicing the penalty kill, practicing the power play, practicing face-offs, build that team chemistry. That's what I want to see. And I think the Olympics, you know what, and this is an age-old problem. The NHL, unlike the NBA, actually has to interrupt their entire season. Major League Baseball doesn't have to do it. The NBA doesn't have to do it. But somehow the NHL has to do it. And there's a lot of money on the line. Futures are at stake. Injuries happen. And
well, I mean, baseball doesn't send its players. If baseball sent its players, it would have to interrupt the season.
That's what I was getting
okay.
at. Only the NHL has to just completely stop their season to have the players play. It's unique and different, and I think Gary Bettman has been a pretty good negotiating, but you know what? They try to negotiate. They according to Emily Kaplan, ESPN.com. If you read her article, that they kind of lost her leverage because they knew that the players wanted to go badly, and the NHL just wanted certain things from the Olympic Committee and the IIHF. They didn't get most of it, but maybe they got something. But I think the NHL as a whole has a lot more to lose than gain out of this. Granted, it is in China. You look at what the NBA has done with the global game, and you hope that the NHL can do it. But when you hear reports of Team China being that bad, and then drawing in the group of Canada, United States, and Germany, I don't know if it's going to put a fire under them to improve their hockey team for the future. but they've got an automatic berth, and I likened it to 1994 U.S. soccer team, men's team, and getting a World Cup automatic bid when it was hosted in the United States because they were the host country. Maybe that will help grow the game. I don't know, but I just feel like in this instance, the Devils have a lot to lose, and the NHL has a lot to lose. Things can go wrong, especially during a pandemic. Those are my thoughts. But rumors are most of the players are vaccinated, but they will have to be vaccinated if they go overseas. 100% they have to. There's no way around it.
I mean, the rules for the NHL's vaccination policy, and I don't want to get into like a political, I don't know how a medical discussion is now a political discussion, but it is. It's the reality of the situation. Yeah. But I don't want to get into one of those. But their rules, the facts are their rules are I haven't dug into them completely, but they look like on the surface as strict as the NFL. They made it very hard to not be vaccinated. They make it hard on, if your teammates aren't vaccinated, they make your life harder. If the team wants these players to get vaccinated because it makes things easier for him. And, there are ideals within NHL circles that probably would make them not want to get vaccinated, and whatever those are, it is what it is. But the fact is that the hesitancy of getting the vaccine and these certain ideals tend to go hand in hand, although those ideals don't always cross over when it comes to more of the affluent part of that ideology. So that's all I'll say about that. So maybe it'll be easier. We've seen some resistance in the NFL. Carson Wentz has come out and said he's not getting vaccinated. Cam Newton, Lamar Jackson. There was a couple others. And obviously there's people who have been vaccinated who get sick too. But I don't need to get into it. I've read too much on COVID. I don't want to talk about it here. But it is the fact of the matter is that getting vaccinated makes life a lot easier for a lot of teams. I think with what the Devils went through last year with it, I think that it's going to be a much easier conversation with them. They've seen how it derails the season. They've seen what it does to their play on the ice. You have players like Marco Rossi, who lost the whole season because of it, but I think he's 18 or 19. He's definitely 18 or 19. I just don't know which one. It seems to have hit hockey harder than it's hit other sports. So it seems like it'll be an easier conversation. I can't name one football player who lost this entire season because he got COVID. I can name a couple football players who were worse after they got COVID, but you can name a couple different things. But Mackenzie Blackwood coming out and saying that after he got it, you can go call Dan. I'll just go on this little rant. He said that he absolutely felt bad afterwards. So I don't think it's going to be a hard conversation. And that's pretty much all I have to say about it. I think it's going to be easy for the Devils, and that's what we really care about. I don't care what other teams do. Hopefully it's just, a simple conversation. They inject themselves with all kinds of weird stuff. The funniest conversation I've had was with somebody who was on the sidelines of the NFL and accidentally drank one of their waters. And there's all kinds of crap in it. It's not water. It's like 17 different things to make them bigger, stronger, faster, yada, yada, yada. So anyway, it's going to make life easier for them. And I'm excited I'm excited for the season. I am excited for Dougie Hamilton. I'm excited. And it's the funny thing is that we've taken a step back from all these moves. I feel like Tomas Tatar's move has fallen under the table because we've spent so much time talking about Vladimir Tarasenko, talking about adding another player, another body, talking about that Brady Tkachuk offer sheet, talking about, the Jesper Kotkaniemi offer sheet really made things interesting for a while. We were talking about that. We were talking, the Canadians traded for Dvorak. There's a lot going on that I feel like the fact that we added Tatar is fallen under the table because when we get out of the national news, go back to the Devils news, we're focusing on Dougie Hamilton. And even when we take it out, the other move was Ryan Graves to really fix that top line of the defense. And then when you kind of really take a close look at it, Like, okay, well, maybe one of the bigger deals was getting Jonathan Bernier, because now you got that backup goalie that you haven't had for so many years. There's just a lot going on with that Tatar's fallen on the table, and he might have an insane impact. He's definitely going to be in the top 6 for the first half of the season. I think that's just clear, and nothing else. Nothing else is going to be like that. But I think that Tatar is somebody who's going to come in. He's going to do a lot of the things right. He's going to play in the system. He's going to be excited that he's on a team that's happy to have him on the top 6. Things could have went haywire for him after how the Canadians treated him in the playoffs. But I think a lot of people understood that the analytics show a lot more than what the Canadians were looking at. And I think that he's going to be somebody who's going to contribute a lot. I think that 20 goals is he has to hit 20 goals for this to make sense where he's going to be. But then you look at the other side. I'm predicting a top line of Igor Sharangovich, Jack Hughes, and Tomas Tatar. And that's just a disgusting top line. If huge if Igor Sharangovich shows that the step that he took in international competition this year, where he was just dominant for Team Belarus, if that translates to the NHL, that this top line could be really good without Tarasenko, without adding anybody. So anyway, sorry, my phone's blowing up right now. We're trying to fix a phone issue, so we gotta get that taken care of. That's not the announcement. Fixing the phone issue is not the announcement. The announcement's still coming up. So don't you worry. Stick right here. We got a huge announcement. Very excited about that. Very excited about the season. I'm very excited. I haven't looked at Facebook yet. Nick Chalk, hi guys. How are you? I really hope that Newfie Mercy makes the team. I'm guessing he means Dawson Mercer. Dawson Mercer was on the Devils podcast this week. Says all the right things. The guy says all the right things. These kids have been interview trained. It seems like since birth, but the kid has a good head on his shoulder. Has great hockey IQ. I think that he's a real playmaker. I'm curious to see if he could score at an NHL level yet. That's one thing I'm very curious about, because I just don't. I saw him in juniors. Great in juniors. He was great. But he was really making people miss. The finishing, it was all right. It was fine. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't like it wasn't NHL ready finishing yet. So that's the thing I'm on Dawson Mercer. Let's see how he can do. Maybe I'll just have him be a 3C and just kind of chill in. But Sam, you're back.
I'm back. Sorry about that. We're having technical difficulties with the phone lines, but got it resolved. I hate it when things don't connect right, Nick. I hope I got this right. Anyway, our next guest, he's a writer at Ice Garden. You can find him on Twitter at DRiceHockey. Please welcome good friend of the podcast, Dan Rice. Dan, you're on with Sam and Nick. How are you tonight?
I'm doing great, guys. How are you tonight?
We're doing good. It's been an exciting day, Dan. We have Dougie Hamilton hitting the ice for the first time. We got the analytics people sharing a lot of interesting analytics that mentioned Damon Severson, PK Subban, and Jack Hughes a lot. So I think it's been a fun day on Devils social media. But I do want to ask, we haven't talked to you in a while, and I'm kind of curious. I don't think we've talked to you since free agency. We got Dougie Hamilton. What were your initial thoughts when the Devils signed the top defenseman on the market?
I got to say I was surprised. First of all, it's not very often Devils fans know this, that their team signs one of the most sought-after players in a free agency period. It's a big deal. They add somebody who should add instant credibility and an instant upgrade to that back end, which was, as we all know, a really big issue this past season. And I'm curious to see how he fits in, how they deploy him, how they use him. I don't think much will change in his game. I think he's going to be the same player. He doesn't seem like one of those guys who's going to be changed by a big contract. He's been in the league a number of years. I was surprised a little bit. You heard the reports going into free agency that he was a potential target, and the Devils were linked to him. But Devils fans have been down this road before. They've kind of had the ball taken out from under them, the old Charlie Brown metaphor, when they think they were going to make a big deal or sign a player who was a big deal. So this was a new thing, and one of the first things I thought of was way back when Dougie was a rookie or in his second year, I believe. I spoke to him when he was with the Bruins, and it was mostly about growing up in the NHL, on a team that had a guy like a Zdeno Chara and a guy like a Patrice Bergeron and a Jerome Iginla. And I remember we talked a lot about Iginla for one reason or another, and it's funny that it worked out that Dougie ended up playing in Calgary for a number of years. So I'm excited to see how it all pans out, but I think it was a great move for the Devils. Again, it gives them an instant upgrade on the back end, and I think a little bit of maybe respect around the league that this ship is turning around and players are choosing to go here now. And I don't blame them because they have a nice young nucleus, that they are trying to build around here.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty clear. Like, there's obviously that Larry Brooks article talking about how they were pitching these players, but the Devils were tied to him for pretty much the entire process, and a lot of teams came in and out, and the Devils were never one of those teams. They were always a team that was always in. What are you most excited about covering Dougie Hamilton this season?
Just that big gun on the back end. That's something they've really lacked. I think we all probably anticipated that Severson was going to be that. I'd say he's maybe a tier below, what Dougie Hamilton can and should be and has been in over the last couple of years here in his career. I think PK Subban was that kind of player before he was a Devil and maybe even before he was a Nashville Predator. But just that game changer, that weapon on the power play, especially that can let it rip and a lot of times his shots, be it tipped or not, end up finding their way onto the net. Whether it's in the net is another thing that that works itself out. But just that weapon, that asset that this group really hasn't had in quite some time. I think back to a guy like a Brian Rafalski. If he could come close to that type of production, then we're talking about maybe some good things here throughout the season.
Yeah, I'm very excited that I mean I was excited in 2019, but I feel like there was a lot of shared excitement in the market because the Rangers made a bunch of moves and the Islanders, I believe I'm trying to remember, I don't remember if that was the season or the season after John Tavares left. There was just a lot going on in this market. So it felt like we were trying to fight for space, but it feels like this year it's just Devils just kind of took over the talk of the town. So that was fun. It was fun. Obviously Jack Eichel is weighing heavily on this market, but speaking of a Jack, like that transition, that was a good transition by me. Moving from one Jack to the other Jack. That was a professional transition. We're moving from one Jack to the other. I want to talk about Jack Hughes. People seem really excited about Jack Hughes. He obviously took a massive step in the right direction last year, but it wasn't, he's not one of the best in the league yet. That's not where he's at. But people seem to think that he's going to be one that's going to make a lot of noise this season. Dan, what is your thoughts about Jack Hughes after watching him for the first 2 years and then knowing what that third year transition usually looks like?
Yeah, I just think it's, he's just going to continue on that upward trend in all facets, offense especially. I think we're going to see the point production jump up a little bit more. I think he's going to get a little bit, where he's a little bit more comfortable now in his own skin, and he's still growing and evolving. He's so young. I mean, in 5 years from now, we're going to look back and some people might be kicking themselves and saying, "Oh man, I used to call this kid wasn't living up to his potential or anything like that." I think he's going to he's a game changer. Nico is a nice player, a nice center, but I don't think he's that number one guy. I think he's better suited as a number two center, and I think Jack is that kind of guy that drives the team, and the way that we saw a Taylor Hall drive this team to a playoff berth, I think Jack is that same type of player. I don't think now I'm not going to sit here on September 8th or 9th and say he's going to drive this team to a playoff spot by any means, but I think he's going to help them win some more games. They're going to be a lot more competitive. I thought, for the most part, they had their obvious lulls last season, but they did okay against some pretty stiff competition, playing those same teams, those big teams over and over and over again. And I think the variety of opponent will also help for everybody, not just Jack, but it'll definitely help drive his numbers even higher in all facets. If you want to look at goals, assists, point production, puck possession, all those kind of things. I think he's just going to be off the charts, and this is just the start. Like, this is only the very beginning, the onset. He's just scratching the surface, and still has a lot more room to grow.
So, me and Sam, before you got on, Dan, we're talking about the Olympics, kind of what that means. With the announcements coming out, there's been a lot of list predictions, and I put out one myself, but the overall list predictions when looking at just kind of like Team USA, a lot of people have Jack Hughes as one of the last cuts, one of the last guys look on the outside looking in. Sam says he's excited about that. He doesn't want Jack to go because, injury. We saw, we saw players get injured before, but it's few and far between when the star players go to the Olympics. What are your thoughts on Jack Hughes? Do you think he's somebody that Team USA should be looking at to be adding, or do you think there's not a point in adding Jack Hughes in the fourth line? That's pretty much the excuse that I've heard from the couple of people who put it out there, that putting Jack Hughes on the fourth line is a disservice to the team overall because he doesn't play penalty kill, yada, yada, yada. What is your thoughts about Jack Hughes' chances to make this team?
I got to say, I'm with Sam on this one. I don't see a real point in him going over there if that's what his role is going to be. If he's going to play maybe one prelim game, sending him over there just for the experience. Jack's played for Team USA before, different levels, obviously, than the Olympics, but he's put on that jersey before. I'm sure he will put on the jersey again in the future. And that's another reason why I'm not crazy about the idea of sending him over there. I think he's got plenty of time to play in other Olympics that are going to be maybe a little bit closer. And I also, selfishly, as a Devils fan, looking at it from that perspective, if I'm a Devils fan, I'm looking at it like, I want my guy to rest for 2 weeks, enjoy himself, take a break from the grind of an NHL season, and come back ready in that. I don't know how many games it would be until the end of the season from that point, but I would assume 25 to 35 kind of games left, and you have a healthy, rested, re-energized, perhaps Jack Hughes, as you try to, maybe push for one of those last couple of playoff spots, which I think that could be their ceiling. I think they play a bunch of meaningful games down the stretch and probably just miss out, whether it's a week or a month before the end of the season.
That's a surprising argument I did not expect, but I mean, you make a good point. Why risk the injury? Why risk, going over there if you're not going to play? So I get it.
This time will come.
Dan,
though.
Dan, I just want to interject here. I couldn't agree with you more. I just wanted to say that.
So Dan, I want to pivot a little bit. You are the premier women's hockey reporter out there. There's a couple of them, and this week has been strange, I guess I'll say. I don't know the word for it, but it was a complete rebrand. It seemingly came out of nowhere. You would know a lot better than me, but I was not. I follow a lot of Rivers people. I did not see something like this coming. But the NWHL is no longer the NWHL. It is now the PHF. I keep getting those letters wrong, so I'm going to get it right this time. PHF, the Pro Hockey Federation. Right. Okay.
Premier Hockey
All right,
Federation.
I got it. Premier. See, so Premier Hockey Federation. The logo's not bad. I don't hate the logo. It seemed like everybody was a little thrown off by it all. Can you explain what's going on?
Sure. Okay, so a couple of months ago, the league, which was previously known as the NWHL, a couple of months ago they teased that some kind of change was coming. It was very random. I don't remember the day of the week. I want to say it was maybe a Thursday night at like 11 o'clock at night. And this was at least 2 months ago, probably more. So that was it. Like, that was the only kind of hint that we had. This something would be coming. You'd think, okay, new commissioner. The league's been around 6 years. Of course, they want to make a couple of changes. Same thing as when a GM takes over a team, right? He wants to have his own coach. He wants to have his own players, his own scouts, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's what the commissioner has been doing, and this rebrand, this change is a part of that. And one of the things that we teased, I think, or I teased a little bit before coming on with you guys is I had a very interesting conversation, a very, very interesting phone call, I should say, today. I got to speak with the excuse me. See, it's a tongue twister, and I've already forgotten the change. The Premier Hockey Federation Commissioner, Ty Tuminia, I was able to speak with her for about 15 minutes today. My first official assignment for the Ice Garden. I've written a couple of articles for them in the past, and somebody's even told me, like, I already thought you were writing for them, so that was kind of cool. But so yeah, my women's hockey coverage will be shifting over there to the Ice Garden now, and that was my first my first official gig. Was interviewing the commissioner of a hockey federation. Which used to be a league, and that's not an opportunity that you get every day. So I was very thankful for the opportunity. I thought we had a pretty good conversation. I asked some of the questions that I had, but a big thing that I did was when I found out that I was going to be doing this yesterday and the whole change happened, I listened to everybody. I listened to fans. I listened to other reporters. I took notes on what I saw people saying. And I brought up a lot of those questions and topics in our conversation that will be up on the Ice Garden. I don't know if it'll be up tonight or tomorrow, but it will be up in short order. And she teased that there are some other big announcements coming down the pike as well. So 2 months ago, before that season starts, a little later start than the NHL does. But I don't think they will be devoid of news. They still have to come out with a whole new website, and a couple of teams are going to be debuting new jerseys. And one team, the Minnesota Whitecaps, they haven't even announced that a player has been signed yet. So that's another thing that has to be tidied up before we get to the start. Although I'm pretty confident that they have signed players, they haven't just announced them yet. But I'm pretty confident in that. And yeah, so there's a lot to look forward to. It's definitely caught me a little bit off guard. We kind of heard about it the night before. All the information started to leak out, and lo and behold, yesterday morning it was official. And like I said, I was very thankful and for your words and introing me in this segment, as well as the opportunity to speak with Ty and really get to the gist of what was going on here.
And yeah, so nothing more than that is going to change. Just real quick, it's just kind of like a logo change. It's not like a philosophy change. We're not going to see more teams. Like nothing bigger than that.
Okay, so a big part of the name change for them was to make it gender inclusive. They wanted to take the women's out of there. They wanted to also take the league out of there to be maybe more globally recognized. Over in Europe, federations are recognized as leagues and so on. So those are some of the changes. The logo is supposed to be a little bit of a nod back to the past. It has some features from the last logo, from the previous logo rather. So yeah, other than those things, nothing's really going to change. I don't think that much. It may open up more sponsorship or partnership opportunities. Last year they were, they were able to get themselves games on NBC Sports Network. All three of their playoff games were on there, and I think the goal this year is to perhaps do something similar. And I have heard some whispers that there may be some type of television deal, but I wasn't able to get that out of the commissioner today. She did hint at, again, some future announcements here. But yeah, all the other stuff is the players are going to be the same players. The teams are going to be the same teams. They are planning to expand at least one team to Montreal. That was originally going to happen before we got into like a COVID situation. The plan was to have that happen this season. But given the state of everything and coming off such a short season that they did, they wanted to really give these 6 teams a full season. And that's what we expect to see starting November 6th.
All right, Dan. We've come to the time that I've been teasing all night. The announcement time. You've already made a big announcement. You got a big piece coming for the Ice Garden. For the Ice Garden. And I'm very excited to read that once that comes out. And that's you've been telling me about this interview, but you have another announcement for us. So you take the floor, talk to the Devils fans. I'm very excited about this.
Thanks. I appreciate, again, the platform and the introduction. As of today, tonight, tomorrow, I'll be joining the Pucks and Pitchforks website. Again, same situation with the Ice Garden. Yeah, it's true.
Yes!
I did have an offer. I did have an offer to do to change my allegiance to do a flyer site, and it was tempting. No, I'm just playing. I didn't. No, this is. I'm excited to get going, and as I told people privately, the same situation with my coverage moving over to the Ice Garden. I don't expect a lot to change other than where you find my work. I expect the same reporter provide the same type of content that I have for the past 9+ years over at the Hockey Writers. I wish them nothing but the best going forward. We had a good run, and I'm looking forward to a fresh start. I'm excited. It's nice to have it out there in the open now. Something that we've been kind of working on for a couple of weeks here, and I just have to finish dotting the I's and crossing the T's, so to speak, and be ready to get started over there.
Yeah, and I've never told you this story, Dan, but it's a funny story. So when I first, I've been blogging about hockey in general for about 10 years, but I got the Devil's Centric blog I think it was about 4 years ago. And you've always had this air over the Devils hockey blog world where it just kind of like felt like it ran through you. And I felt like when I first got the blog, I was like, he's competition. Like, it's like, oh, what's he doing? Let me read his stuff so I can kind of see how he's doing this. And let me see, what can I emulate? What can I try to change? I obviously not going to copy you, but, I was trying to see what the best in the hockey blog sphere for the Devils was doing. Then when Sam brought me on this podcast, I was like, I was trying to weigh whether do I invite Dan on because he's my quote unquote competition, but your work speaks for itself, and I would do the fans a disservice not bringing you on this podcast and talking to you about Devils hockey, how much you know and how long you've been doing it. So when the opportunity arose of bringing you on Pucks and Pitchforks, it's obviously a no-brainer, but to bring you on to legitimize us as an entity, to show that we're going to bring that news quality that people expect on top of high-quality opinion pieces, Dan, I can't be more excited to bring you on to our team.
I can't. I don't think I have the right words to appropriately say what you just said means to me. I really appreciate that. It's pretty funny for a writer. I've been pretty tongue-tied the last couple of weeks when people have said things like that to me, and I honestly don't know what to say other than thank you. That really means a lot. I've always just tried to, and I know what you mean about reading other writers, and you take bits and pieces and you try and find your own voice and your own style. I feel like it took me a while to find that, and I feel like sometimes I'm still evolving and growing. You never, really are satisfied. But I've just always tried to be maybe a little bit different, and that's a funny that I just said that way because that's something that the Commissioner Ty and I spoke about today. Is the PHF is a little different. But it makes people talk, right? And it makes you wonder what it's about. So being different isn't always the worst thing in the world. You might take your lumps here and there and those kind of things. But with my transition, I hope that I just can do the same thing that I was doing previously just for you guys now. And I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes. I'm not trying to be a rock star or anything like that. I'm not trying to break the bank. Just happy to be in a home where I can, report on certain aspects of things that I see and with my angle, with my take, and hopefully people still enjoy that no matter who I'm writing for, whether it's Pucks and Pitchforks, the Hockey Writers, back when I wrote for Stan Fischler and his newsletter and with the Ice Garden, I just hope to deliver the same content that I always have.
Sam, what do you have to say? You're here. What do you have to say about a big announcement?
Dan, first and foremost, congratulations. And I don't know if you know about this, but we're now officially colleagues because I write for Pucks and Pitchforks as well. And you know what? The whole Devils fandom, Devils community, it's such a nice community. And I just want to say this. Nick talked about, what, that he used to, look at your work, read your work. The one thing I admire about you over the years, because I've read your stuff dating back to, I don't know, in my 20s, that I marvel at your consistency day in and day out. That's not easy to do. And I'm glad that you have platforms to continue doing that. And again, congratulations, because it was not easy. When Nick told me the secret a while ago, I had to keep my mouth shut, and that's not easy. I didn't want to blow your big day.
I truly appreciate that. It's been a wild ride for me the last month and a couple of weeks now since everything started with my departure. I'm just really happy to again be somewhere where I feel appreciated, and again just try to provide the same content that I always have. And you guys have been really friendly to me. Everybody really has been amazing with the messages and tweets and texts and phone calls from the Devil's World to the NWHL or whatever the PHF players that habit dies hard, man. But those players have been fantastic to me too. I mean, the sheer amount of them that reached out to me over the last month or so has just been really amazing and something I really cherish, as well as you guys, your excitement to bring me on board and all that. It just it kind of just invigorates me even more. And like I said, I'm ready to get going, and training camp starts here in a few weeks, and the prospect tournament. I'm sorry that I won't be able to get up there this year. It's something that I've gone to a handful of years. I love going to Buffalo. I have a lot of great friends up there, and it's kind of always been like the official kickoff of the season for me. And a lot of people don't know that, over the time where I've been, especially the last 15 years when I've been writing, I always had another job in addition to my writing responsibilities. So you mentioned being consistent. That's something I prided myself on for a long time, showing up to games. Sometimes when I wasn't feeling great, not necessarily sick, but maybe worn out and tired because I worked a long day at a day job, whether it was a bakery or a moving company or going way back. I used to work overnight at UPS, so I've done a lot of stuff while I've been doing the writing. As you said, it's been able to be consistent and fresh, and I really appreciate hearing that. That really meant a lot. So thanks again, guys. I really appreciate the platform to not only write but also speak with you guys here tonight and whenever you have me on.
That is Dan Rice, now Pucks and Pitchforks contributor. Dan, thanks for much for coming on. It was a ton of fun. I can't wait to start making magic with you.
Thanks again. I'm sure I'll be back on the show soon, and short little while here, we'll all be talking about real games and stuff going on. And it's going to be an exciting year, I think, one way or another.
It's going to be a lot.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, guys.
That is Dan Rice, Pucks and Pitchforks blog contributor, now our new colleague, jumping on board, but well-deserved. I'm seeing the questions coming in on the Facebook Live, a lot of YouTube Live comments. I know Jerry had a question about the trade deadline. Is it before the Olympics or after? Obviously, it's after, because I think they pause at the NHL All-Star and then they go to the Olympics, if I'm not mistaken. Nick, I think they're in Vegas and then things stop.
Yeah, it's before. It's definitely after.
Yeah, because, I mean, can you imagine if it was before? It's like, okay, you trade for this guy, stud, great forward, going to the playoffs, and then he gets hurt at the Olympics. Not going to happen. And also the PK Subban trade rumors going around. I think it came from Jimmy Murphy of Boston Hockey Now. And look, it's interesting, but at the end of the day, I think that Tom Fitzgerald would be wise to wait, see what happens, because I think he has a lot to gain from that. But also, I mean unless Toronto offers Austin Matthews, I mean.
But on a serious note, we've seen the trade deadline be an asset for the Devils. If Subban comes in and looks really good in a protected role, a team's going to come and ask for him. And then if you can, the prorated salary, plus we'll take half. So if he's only making $3 million for another team, I think that's a much easier sell to get a good pick. Imagine if we get a second-round pick for PK Subban. People will be dancing in the streets as Devils fans. So
especially this year's draft.
Yeah, huge draft. Great draft.
Yeah.
It's a great draft, and teams are willing to move picks. You saw what Carolina just did, and then you saw what Montreal just flipped around and did again. So I think it's an interesting move, but I don't think that they have to trade him now. I think what happens here, and we can end on this, Sam. It's been an exciting podcast. I'm a little out of breath. I'm a little overwhelmed because this is a big night for both of us, because Dan's going to be part of our podcast coverage regularly. He's going to be part of our blog coverage. He's going to be somebody that we can, trying to find the right word for it, but to call him a collaborator is going to mean a lot to us. And I'm excited about that. I'm excited for the fans that have stuck with us through the pandemic, doing a weekly show with no hockey games for months on end. Not even, rumors. Like nothing was happening.
Almost a year, dude. Almost a year.
And to our credit, we never went to like the depths of let's rank the Devils goalies of all time and let's rank the Devils. We never had to go there. We went to we made it a show that was fresh and it was new and it took stuff in and I'm I don't want to sit here and pat myself on the back. That's not what this is for. But I'm amazed that there's so many people stuck with us. I'm amazed that when things were exciting, because me and you talked, we're like the number's a little low. That's okay. During the season, I'm talking about the numbers are a little low. The Pucks and Pitchforks numbers were lower than what we were expecting. Not terrible. We were still doing like 150,000 views, 175,000 views, which is fine. But, now we're, it's an exciting time and we're hitting 400,000 to 500,000 views on the website. We're doing crazy download numbers on the podcast. I'm excited for what's coming next. I'm excited for the season. I'm excited for the content that comes out of the season. I'll plug real quick. I have a fun piece up it's up right now. 5 players that you didn't realize left. They're not here anymore. And I didn't write it. There was one that was on the ESPN roster page. And that's what made me want to write the story, because I was like, wait, he's still here? And I was like, no, he's not. So I almost wrote a piece about what he could bring to the Devils this year, but he's not here. So I will write. That's up on the website now. Tomorrow, I kind of get into some of those numbers that we're talking about, PK Subban and Damon Severson. So that's going up tomorrow morning. And you got a piece coming out soon, right?
Soon. I just got to do my research on it. I'll be writing more for pucksandpitchforks.com. Also, just want to say to Steve Tartas that we should all celebrate. No, he still wants Sam Wu Skybox tonight. We'll have to work on that. I don't know how that's going to happen. Also, Billy, Steven, thank you for commenting in the YouTube live. Great night. There'll be Woo Report tomorrow. Also, go to pucksandpitchforks.com. Till next time, let's go Devils.